As pharmaceutical companies seek to profit from the curative wonders of human feces, doctors worry about new regulations, higher prices and patients attempting DIY cures. Cambridge, Massachusetts, there's a new war raging in health care, with hundreds of millions of dollars at stake and thousands of lives in the balance. The battle, pitting drug companies against doctors and patient advocates, is being fought over the unlikeliest of substances, human excrement. The clash is over the future of fecal microbiota transplants, or FMT, a revolutionary treatment that has proved remarkably effective in treating Clostridioides difficile, a debilitating bacterial infection that strikes 500,000 Americans a year and kills 30,000. The therapy transfers fecal matter from healthy donors into the bowels of ailing patients, restoring the beneficial works of the community of gut microbes that have been decimated by antibiotics. Scientists see potential for using these organisms to treat diseases from diabetes to cancer. At the heart of the controversy is a question of classification. Are the fecal microbiota that cure C. diff a drug, or are they more akin to organs, tissues and blood products that are transferred from the healthy to treat the sick? The answer will determine how the Food and Drug Administration regulates the procedure, how much it costs and who gets to profit. In 2013, the FDA announced a draft decision to regulate the therapy as a new drug but said it would continue to study the matter before reaching a final decision, which is expected to happen soon. Critics say that approach is based on outdated science and could lead to increased costs for patients, most of whom currently rely on a non-profit stool bank in Cambridge. At stake, some researchers say, is the future of pioneering therapies that harness the human microbiome, the trillions of organisms that colonize the body and are increasingly seen as critical for healthy brain development and immune function. People have good reason to worry because for many patients, fecal transplants are a matter of life and death, said Catherine Duff, founder of the Fecal Transplant Foundation, a patients group. The concern is that corporate greed will get in the way of patient access. As the FDA nears a final decision, both sides are ramping up the pressure. More than 40 prominent gastroenterologists and infectious disease doctors recently wrote to the agency, urging it to rethink its approach. Dr. Alexander Koretz, a gastroenterologist at the University of Minnesota, said he feared the FDA was favoring the interests of what he calls the poop drug cartel, a group of companies seeking approval for new ways to deliver the active ingredients in transplanted feces. Three of the companies, Rebiotics, Ceres Therapeutics and Vedanta Biosciences, have raised tens of millions of dollars from investors and they recently formed an association to advance their interests with the FDA. An obscene amount of money is being thrown around by companies trying to profit off of what nature made, said Dr. Koretz. I don't think there are clear villains here, but I worry that the regulators are not caught up on the latest science and that the interests of investors may be exceeding those of patients. Pharmaceutical executives and some doctors argue that the drug model will help ensure the efficacy and long-term safety of a therapy whose mechanics remain poorly understood. The first principle of medicine is do no harm, and at the moment we don't have a long-term track record of FMT's adverse effects, said Dr. Sahil Khanna, an associate professor of gastroenterology at the Mayo Clinic who has conducted industry-funded clinical trials on fecal transplants. We also need to move away from transferring poo from one person to another. Experts in the field of bioethics and many doctors are pressing the FDA to come up with a new regulatory category that reflects the groundbreaking nature of microbiota therapies. Much like the fight over prescription drug prices, the poop wars, as one doctor described it, mirrors long-running tensions in American health care between pharmaceutical companies and patients. Human feces, it turns out, are a potential gold mine, for both medical researchers and drug makers. According to the analytical firm Global Data, the market for drug-based treatments for C. diff is expected to reach $1.7 billion by 2026, up from $630 million in 2016. The growth is tied to soaring rates of C. diff, which parallel the overuse of antibiotics, leaving patients more vulnerable to the infection. Inspired by the success of fecal transplants for C. diff, scientists are racing to develop similar treatments for an array of ailments and disorders, among them obesity, autism, ulcerative colitis, and Alzheimer's and Parkinson's diseases. Investors, too, have taken note, and they are pouring tens of millions of dollars into startups chasing the next microbiota breakthrough. The whole field is screaming forward faster than anyone could have imagined, said Lee A. Jones, chief executive of Rebiotics, which is testing 2 products to treat C. diff. The microbiome has the potential to change the way we look at and treat disease. Such exuberance is a far cry from what researchers experienced when they first tried to sell the curative power of human feces. Mark Smith, a microbiologist at MIT, was halfway through his pitch with a group of pharmaceutical executives when one of them interrupted to ask if the meeting was a prank. "I can't believe you wasted my time with this crazy idea," the man said, Dr. Smith later recalled. That was 2012. Later that year he helped found OpenBiome, the nonprofit stool bank that now supplies most of the fecal matter for transplants in the United States. 3 years ago, he started his own drug company, Finch Therapeutics, which has raised $77 million.